Hello, I'm Barbara Kerr. I'm the Assistant Director of the library.
Well, hello. I'm the head of reference here at the Medford Library.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm the new children's librarian.
The book I've picked for this review is Brilliance by Marcus Saki. Now, his previous books have been suspense thrillers about kidnapping and revenge. This one is more of a science fiction book. I didn't realize that when I started to read it. And what captured my attention was the fact that, if you can see here, half of the title page is the guy's name and title, and the other half is a review by Lee Child, and what it says is, the kind of story you've never read before. I bought the advertising and started reading it. I have read this story before. It is a common tale. It is actually the plot of the X-Men books, and it's the plot of this book that was written in 2012, Amped, by Daniel H. Wilson. It is nevertheless a pretty good story. The premise is that in the future, a certain percentage of the population are gifted. They have mental skills that normal people don't have. They have the ability to predict financial markets and to anticipate where people are going to be, so that there's a great football player who breaks all the records because he can anticipate where people will be on the field. And the stock exchange is shut down because someone knows how the markets are going to work and puts it out of business. Into this comes a CIA agent named Nick Cooper, who is gifted and has a gifted child. He's part of a government agency that pursues sort of the terrorist gifteds, because there is a resistance movement, because children are put into academies when they test as gifted, and it's kind of a nightmarish situation. There's a big terrorist event. He's not sure who did it, so he goes underground to try and infiltrate the gifted the resistance movement and capture or kill the leader of it. And in the meantime, he learns a lot about what life is like for other people. It's not a straight thriller, it is more science fiction-y, and the people who read thrillers do not necessarily like science fiction stuff. However, it's good. I'm only part of the way through, as you can see by the bookmark, but it's a good story, a lot of action, a lot of interesting ideas, so I recommend it.
I wanted to tell you about a classic written by Charlotte Bronte, Jane Eyre. Charlotte Bronte was writing at a time when there were very few opportunities for women to develop themselves. The Victorian ideal was that you should marry and find fulfillment in your husband and in your children. And for women who could not or would not marry, they were made to feel second best or social outcasts. And governesses in particular had a problem. You may not be aware of this, but the vast majority of retired governesses wound up in insane asylums. There was no place for them in society and no one for them to talk to. They couldn't converse with their employers because they were employers, and they couldn't converse with the servants because the servants were below them. So this story, in many respects, speaks to the desire, to the wishes of women to develop themselves when they weren't allowed to. And also there was an escapism component. The governesses alone could dream of love. And it is a love story on one level between a governess and her employer. But it's also about the wish that women had back then to develop themselves and make something of themselves, leave their stamp on the world. So in many regards, even though it's couched in Victorian language, it's a very modern novel, and I would recommend it to anyone.
So the book I have with me today is Margaret Peterson Haddock's Among the Hidden. Now this is the first book in the Shadow Children series, and it's a really fantastic read if you like thrillers or like dystopian future societies that are really messed up. Now in this book, the society has population control, which means that every family is allowed only 2 children. And the main character in this book, his name is Luke, and he is the 3rd child in his family. They have kept him inside the house, away from school, away from other people all his life. He's only met and known his family. And so his life is kind of boring, but he has a life. And one day he looks out the window to the house next door and he realizes there's another hidden child in the house next door. And so this is the very start of an interesting thriller, and if you like kind of crazy, creepy reads about future societies, you cannot miss it. Come check it out. Oh, and before we get any further, our friend the library rat decided to stop by. Hey Rat, how you doing? Oh, he's being bashful. Rat, do you have any favorite book? Oh, what's your favorite book? Oh, really? The Walking Dead, Rat? Well, if you were like the rat and want the world as we know it to end, then you can also pick up The Walking Dead.
If you're enjoying these book reviews, you might also enjoy an in-person book review. On the second Friday mornings, usually on the second Friday mornings of each month at 10 o'clock, we do coffee and books. It's a group of 6 to a dozen people. I review a number of adult nonfiction and fiction books, and people talk about what they've been reading lately. It's a fun way to spend a morning. The rat does not go to it, and but he could. And so I hope that you'll stop by. Check our calendar first, because once in a while there's a holiday, but every second Friday at 10 o'clock.